To advertise with us, donate sponsorships and suggestions, email us at trendafricatv@gmail.com or call us on 773-312-0318 or 773-756-6678. Remember to also follow and like us as Trend Africa TV on Facebook so you can always catch us live. On Instagram as Trend Africa TV 123 or subscribe to our YouTube channel as Trend Africa TV and click on the notification button to watch previous shows. You can also visit our website for your African news, entertainment, fashion and sports updates on www.trendafricaonline.net. Trend Africa TV, redefining Africa.
Thank you for joining us at Solutions Talk Orbit. We're out here in front of the Powerhouse Restaurant.
Yes.
With all that's going on in the city of Chicago. You can see that the Powerhouse Restaurant has taken a hit from the violence, from the riot, and from the protesters. So we're out here to host the show and to talk about all that's going on.
Yes.
And it's time to call that action, a call to action.
It's a
and
call
what are
to
we doing
action.
about this, RG?
Well, we're going to be doing a lot. We're going to be talking about all the issues going on in Chicago today. We're definitely going to make sure we highlight and pinpoint different solutions to a lot of issues that we have and that people are dealing with today. So get ready for the show. It's good to see everybody. We have the police outside. We have the military on the side. So we're about to get going.
The military's out here.
Yes. So let's get going.
Let's talk about this. Let's fix this.
Yes,
can we?
yes. We got a lot to talk about.
Okay. Join us.
Join us. Bye.
To advertise with us, donate sponsorships and suggestions, email us at trendafricatv@gmail.com or call us on 773-312-0318 or 773-756-6678. Remember to also follow and like us as Trend Africa TV on Facebook so you can always catch us live. On Instagram as Trend Africa TV 123 or subscribe to our YouTube channel as Trend Africa TV and click on the notification button to watch previous shows. You can also visit our website for your African news, entertainment, fashion and sports updates on www.trendafricaonline.net. Trend Africa TV, redefining Africa.
Thank you for joining us right here at Solutions Talk Orbit. We're here at the Powerhouse Restaurant at 2113 South State Street. It is the Solutions Talk Show. So I have right here with me my co-host, Aji Ojo, and we're about to call that action in. It's a lot going on that's deafening around the world for what's going on. Started with the killing of, I think the mother is the right word, murder of George Floyd. That man did not deserve his life to be taken away from him. But we're here to talk about it and the consequences of that's going on. We're going to have a few guests with us to discuss this. We're at Solutions Talk Orbit. We try to fix things. Let's fix this. Aji, can we do that?
Yes. I'm ready. I believe it's a call to action. I think it's time for men and women to stand up and speak truth to power. I think people just don't want to hear the same things they've been hearing over and over again for a long time. So I think people are ready for some serious instructions or maybe some serious leadership and what to do and what direction and how we're going to talk about what's going on. People are frustrated. We just came back from the south side of Chicago, Inglewood. All the stores over there, they've been looting. So many things happening. And I believe, there's pain on both sides. And it's a lot of issues that we really need to talk about, and that's been hanging on over our heads for a long time. So log in with us, and just stay tuned so that we really discuss these issues. On my left, we have the lovely, lovely Pastor Peace. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Peace. I say AKA Pastor Peace, AKA the Moral Philosopher.
Yes. And I'm all right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Princess, just Princess. Nice to meet you.
So, fellow Solutions Talk Orbit viewers, this is what a Talk Orbit is all about solving issues. When the crises that are bound to come up in the society, I think that we have to get together to fix it, offer solutions, and see where we can move forward. Where there was an error, where the ideas that we need to set forward to make sure that we're moving progressively to the right direction. So can we do this today at Solutions Talk Orbit?
Yes.
Lots of hurt, lots of pain. But guess what? I also took a hit. How am I feeling about this? So can I help those who are in pain to feel the same, to get over it? So let's get together. We'll take a break and come back with my beautiful team right here. She is marvelous. She is a princess, is going to be contributing her thoughts. And I think you can join us from the audience. Submit your questions, bring up your ideas, and let's get this fixing done. Thank you.
Another brand new anthem. OS moved up. And it's your boy Solo. Another brand new anthem. How you gon' check me around the show? Hits with the one, just ask for more. Swag you just said, just for more. Words know the rhyme if you check the flow. You think say you know, but you don't know. You have no clue what man they go through. All this why you think say I before I know they walk through the valley, I just they pass through.
Sin is the lie. They want to see me fall. Sin is the lie. They want to see me fall, but I keep rising, I keep rising, I keep rising, go higher. I keep rising, I keep rising, I keep rising, go.
This is the banga, the real club banga. All you other niggas just ride like Usanga. Stop like a period, you fucking with the danger. Friend or foe, yeah, I'm killing every stranger. Pow pow, tell the real shots been fired. Can't keep up with the bosses, you been tired. Certified, make a bang it till next summer. I got the real wire, hot like summer fire. Coming for your neck like a real live vampire. Roy City take over the new empire. Mr. Pananana, I got the answer. So sick like a nigga got a cancer. So you better ask somebody, yo. Then they jump, then they rush like Mario. You gotta check the scenario. Stack money bigger than a bungalow.
Sin is the lie. They want to see me fall. Sin is the lie. They want to see me fall, but I keep rising, I keep rising, I keep rising, go higher. I keep rising, I keep rising, I keep rising.
Thank you for joining us back at the powerhouse here at Solutions Talk Orbit. And we're going to start with serving our guests because this is what we do. But today is going to be a coffee day. There's no drinking or eating or anything but just coffee. Coffee is not a drink. You know, when you get to the drink, it's something else. This is coffee. We re-energize because everyone is damn tired. And because we're tired, let's get some coffee and talk. Meanwhile, there's a lot that's going on around the city of Chicago and around the world. I think you want to show that video. Can you talk about it, Aji, while I serve?
Okay. Right. So this video is just a whole bunch of stuff that we were able to take when we were running around Chicago for the past 2 nights. That's why we're calling this show Call to Action. I believe it's time for us to just speak and speak from our hearts, you know, and really speak to what's happening. And if we're able to direct or change 1 or 2 members or 3 people that's our viewers, that's watching the show, I think it will be very important. So Black Jesus, are you ready with the video?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just the start. This is just the start. This is just the beginning. This is the beginning.
Yes, everybody, we're back. I'm glad to see you guys. Make sure that everybody's back on the show. Julia Gum is taking care of some serious problems that happened with the glass that you guys saw that was shattered in her restaurant. So we're just going to continue right now without her. On my left is Peace, and I want Peace to just talk to us about what she's seen, what's going on in her world and what she's been able to see so far. So Peace, can you please come in and discuss some of the what's happening right here?
Well, thank you, AJ. And well, I mean, you know, in light of, I know you guys just saw the video. We see what's going on around, you know, the states, and here, particularly in Chicago. You know, I guess for me, it's a little bit shocking. I got off of work early this morning and driving in my neighborhood between Inglewood and South Shore, and just saw the destruction.
Yes. And
that destruction really has broken my heart. That destruction is hitting home in a way that, you know, I didn't think would hit me. I'm not going to get emotional about it right now, hopefully, but I just couldn't believe it. You know, I had to just take time to really take pictures, not only to document for other people to see, but for me to see, you know, for me to just take it into prayer, because for me, that's what I know I need to do. I'm going to have to take, you know, everything that I've seen into prayer, because I know that what is happening is not really something that is physical. It's something that's very spiritual. And so, you know, with that, everyone is seeing what's going on. You know, this is not just happening here in Chicago. We have New York, we have Atlanta, and in fact,
LA.
Los Angeles. And in fact, you know, I had an individual, a security guard that was working with me on this overnight shift, and his best friend passed away last night.
Wow.
And so this is really hitting home. This is something that I know that's not only affecting me, this is going to affect everyone. So as people are out protesting in violence and protesting and looting, this is something that is going to have, you know, an effect for all of us in the future. And so this is something that we have to come together and talk about.
Yes.
You know,
what
in the future.
What I wanted to touch on, because what's happening, it first of all started with 2020. We all know it's been one, you know, and what kept coming to my mind was, wow, COVID started, Now, some things that we never got to witness in our lifetime, everybody got to be in the household, locked in, the frustrations building up, finances short, just you can't come in, people dying of sicknesses, you can't even actually go to the hospital and say farewell to your family members. So this is stuff that's happening, and then all of a sudden we were about to re-enter, and all of a sudden one day, right, everybody forgot about social distancing and COVID, and another big thing came up again. And that's really where I'm at, like, whoa, so what's going on? What are we going to do? That's why we call the show Call to Action. Like, what are we seeing? Because to the normal eyes, right, you're going to say, yes, there's a war going on outside, like you said. And that's the physical. But there's other things in the spiritual and other ways that we can deal with this matter. And that's really why I want us to kind of like focus on. What areas do you think that, first of all, I would say my point of view is I'm only here to give out good news, because that's what I've been instructed to do. Now, I have background. I'm a young black man that I've been in America since 1992, and I've seen injustice, and always, even in my personal life, I have a lot of stories to tell based on that. And a lot of those injustices probably cuts across racial lines. And so there's a lot going on, there's a lot of tension. But my job and what I've been instructed to do is to pass on nothing but good news, and to let really people understand that what you're seeing with the naked eyes and the physical might not necessarily be the way it is. So we need to be very conscious. Those of us that call ourselves thinkers and creators and creatives and people with a voice, the media, you have to be very careful, because I always say there's two ways I look at things. You're either building or destroying. Right now, and a lot of people will tell you, sometimes you have to destroy to build up, right? You have to tear down a whole construction to rebuild a whole house. I think America is going through a phase right now where it needs a lot of rebuilding. But the question I'm asking everybody is, what side are you on? Are you on the side of the destruction, or are you on the side of the building? And that's why we call into action, so that you can hold yourself accountable for what you're doing. If you're part of the ones looting, and look, I'm not here to judge anybody, to speak to anybody about what to do or what not to do. I know that hurt people. Violence begets violence. That officer kneeling obviously is going to incite some type of reaction, which is necessary in any kind of situation. And that's what we're here to talk about. Princess, can you touch on something about what's happening with us?
For me, I was telling you this morning, I was totally oblivious about what was happening today. And like just driving out and seeing, places looted, seeing wooden planks being used to cover, broken glass and everything. Like I was like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? And it goes to the very heart of, injustice, really. Most people feel frustrated already, with COVID, with all the, tumultuous things that have happened this year. Most people are already frustrated. And just, with the whole occurrence of George Floyd and everything, it was just, them taking the bait and, just acting out on the frustrations, really. Because most people kind of like look for an outlet to just, vent their frustrations. And as people have different opinions, there should be peaceful protests, don't riot and all that, but like sometimes you have to address things at the root cause. You have to tackle what is going on with people. You have to be able to empathize and see the other side of things. Just like AJ was saying, violence begets violence, but at the end of the day, it's really not the answer. We have to choose the way we fight. We have to choose the method that we fight. And it sometimes involves compromise. Nobody can, get 100% of what they want, but we have to come together and we have to talk. We have to use our platforms, whether you're in the media, whether you're an essential worker, whether you're just, someone who isn't even affected by what is going on. You have to learn how to use your platform to speak for those who are hurting. You have to learn to empathize and don't say, oh, because there's a lot of violence, then the real issue is now being detracted from.
Exactly.
You still have to focus on the issue. Yeah, people are taking it out in probably the wrong way, but that's the only way they know how, you know, because they feel like their voices have not been heard for so long, and it's like you're hitting, when you hit people where it hurts, when it comes to like issues of life, sometimes, you know, people might not always react the right way, but it doesn't mean that you should minimize or trivialize, you know, the main issues that are being faced. So we do have to come together, we do have to talk, we do have to compromise, we do have to find common ground and ways to ensure that every life is valued, every life matters.
Thank you so much, Princess. Just to piggyback on what you're saying, and we're talking, good thing that my co-host is back, Julia, and just to let you guys know that's watching, I have a professional here. Peace hasn't really told us what her background is, so when it comes to mental trauma and how to kind of break down things and how to look at things from that perspective, we have an expert here. So we're not just talking about what we believe are solutions. We have a team here of people that have seen stuff and then be part of it from the community that know exactly what's going on. So Peace, I have a question for you. From a mental trauma type, in this atmosphere, in this time, and all this stuff going on, what's the outlook? How are we supposed to be?
Well, I mean, I think just to give a little background, so I do have a degree in mental health clinical counseling, and so one of the things that I found just in studying is that there's clear facts. There are clear facts of what trauma, you know, does to individuals. And that's even from birth. Like at the time that a woman gets pregnant, and you know the woman is already experiencing certain levels of trauma or certain levels of distress, that's already affecting the development of the child, and also the development of, you know, again, which will become sort of the behaviors, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, what I found in my studies is that there's a generational trauma that has occurred, especially within the African American community. Yes. We can even look at this, you know, in regards to, you know, other populations, right? Because we can look at the Holocaust and what happened during the Holocaust. And what I found is that clearly there has not been a great focus in understanding the trauma that has occurred in our communities. And what we found is that, in fact, when I moved to Chicago, I'm like, they were disinvesting into the mental health, you know, the mental health. And it's just like, what? Because what I found is like, if I look at the facts that are in the books that I read, I would say that practically 90% of, you know, what's going on in our community is a mental health issue. Now, when we look at it from that perspective, we now see that the behaviorisms, we see that, you know, the anger, the anger.
The anger.
The anger.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The anger that, you know, I can go on and on about this.
What?
You know what I mean? But that's what we're seeing. We're seeing anger. This is a result of anger. And then, of course, when we talk about trauma, there's a lot of different factors that come into play with that. But, you know, I think the root thing we're talking about here is that, you know, our community is facing a lot of anger. And when you talk about how do you release that? What are ways to, you know, actually harness that? And that's a conversation that has to be had. And, you know, like I talk with AJ a lot, and I have an organization called Pure Unity, which is focused on, you know, mental health education, because our mental health is actually the most important thing that we need to be focused on as people. You know, not even if we're talking about race or anything, it's just as people in general. Mental health is very important because this is the way we process things. This has to do with our mental state. And when we go into spiritual realm, you know, the mind is the devil's playground. And so therefore, this is where he's going to be implanting thoughts and things into your mind that now causes certain behaviors. And so, you know.
So you took out time to go around the South Side yesterday to take a look at what was going on around you, so that, you know, you can help inform everybody else that you come across on how to feel better or how to get healing from this. What was your experience like going around and seeing the hurt, the pain, the brutality, the violence, the riots, and being part of it, being in the picture? What was your experience?
Exactly. Great question. What was your call to action?
My call to action was, one, I needed to know what is the current state, right? Because I could have just got off of work and just drove home and said, okay, you know, I know this is happening, but I need to go to sleep because I haven't slept, right?
Right.
But I was like, you know what? I need to know exactly what's going on. So the first thing I pulled up to was a gas station. There was a gas station. There's a man who's sitting in his car. He's looking distressed because his gas station that he owns has been looted.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, and so the first thing is I get out the car and I want, like I said, I want to document because I feel like this is important. But I also want to have a conversation, you know, with the guy to say, you know, how are you? You know, what's happening? And he, you know, we shared a couple words. I got back in my car and literally as I was just driving everywhere, I was just praying in the spirit, because if I didn't pray in the spirit, I think, you know, that's where mentally I would have went. You just want to get out and you probably start want to punch walls and you want to participate in the looting. You want to get involved in, you know, what's going on. But, you know, just praying the spirit to kind of keep me centered. And I just continued on that route. And as I continued on that route, it was documenting, it was praying, it was asking, okay, what is the next step from here? Because there has to be healing.
Correct.
We know that people have to come together. There has to be a uniting that has to happen in order for the community to get restored. And so it was really, okay, you know, asking God, you know, asking the Creator, like, what's next? And that's me praying in the spirit. And so that's what I did. And then, of course, that ended up me being here.
Yes.
Well, thank you again for coming.
We appreciate
today.
you. And we have a lot of great lineup for you conversation. So we're just getting started. Because I really want to talk on, there's a lot that's happening as an African. And I believe all of us here today are Africans. And we'll just speak to the Black American community, to the pain and to the anguish and to just everything they've had to deal with for over 400 years.
You
and
know,
I always say...
Let me interject with something. Forgive me, Aji. Talking about the African community here versus the African community back home. I'm not saying Black Americans here. I'm saying the African community here that were born here, that had their roots here, and the African community that come from Africa. There is a divide. And I think that there's a moment where we all need to come together to know we are one to fight this and to console one another. And I think that through that we can find healing. There is the conception of the African Americans, let me get to that word, here, that they don't get that much support, or Africans from Africa, the new age Africans coming here, do not understand what they've been through and what they're going through. And truly, they're right, because we're not those whose forefathers were put chains around their necks. They're the ones been going through a lot on the streets and fighting for that opportunity that we are now here benefiting from. And it's now better, but back then it was more lynching and out there, so much going on. Right now it's better. It's not best, it's not over, but when we come in, do we understand or do we keep accusing them for misbehaving? I think that for a message to go across correctly, there must be a protest. I'm calling it a peaceful protest, but if violence comes out of that, and I think a lot of you out there should try to understand why versus judging. I'll say this from my perspective because I took a hit. I've shown you all that my restaurant got, someone had to break the glass on my restaurant. But I feel I'm not angered. I'm not angered as when I saw the knee of that cop on George Floyd's neck. And I have a wealth of people around me who are saying, Julia, we can fix this. I even have the luxury of my landlord coming here a few minutes ago to say, I'm going to help you. What can I do to help? I have a community who came out here this morning to help me clean because they're supporting me. I'm not saying this for every other business out there, but you cannot, the difference is you cannot bring back that man's life back. You cannot bring his life back. He doesn't have a second chance to live to tell his story. So what can we do to help the African community heal? What can we do to help every one of us get together and you know, kind of align with the good white folks that are out there, because the white folks who came out here to help me, with the good white folks that are out there to bring healing to America. What can we do?
I mean, I would say, like, it starts with listening, hearing people's pains and hearing people's struggles. It starts with actually, like, listening, having that conversation, because you don't know what someone has been through until you walk a mile in their shoes. And usually that, like I said, brings about the compassion, that brings about the empathy.
Yes.
And that's when you start to know, okay, these are the things I can do to help them. You know, there's a lot of people who are doing great things, who are very much involved in the community. The moral philosopher, like, she's into, like, you know, mental health education and things like that. So it starts with really recognizing the issues, recognizing the things that are at the roots, you know, the root cause of all this, will I say violence, the root cause of the uproar. Like, identify those things, talk to people, like, empathize, reach out, and be very much involved in the community, lend a helping hand. Yeah, if you see a child, you know, that's displaced or struggling, how can you help in your own capacity? Like, you don't have to wait for, you know, the government or whoever. Like, you have to think about, how can I help in my own capacity? Some do it by just, you know, raising awareness, and those who have resources then come in and, you know, invest. So it starts with, what can I do? What are the skills I have? What are the talents I have that I can give to this world? I can give to people who are literally in distress, you know.
I think
Because, yeah,
Playing your
go
part.
ahead.
yeah, I mean, a key word that you keep used, you know, before is that root cause. I think it's really, really important
That's
for us
what
to
it is.
understand the root
Root,
cause,
yes.
right? Because
Yes, because for the people who say they've never seen this, they don't understand this, you have to go back into learning what's the root cause of this.
Yeah.
And then I watched a video of a white lady who said, honestly, she'd never judged this in the face of racism. All that has happened, she'd never seen it because she never had that mindset. And I get it. She never had that mindset, but seeing that video made her understand that truly the blacks have been saying something that they need to look into
For a long time.
for a long time. And the reason this stands out on its own is because it was caught on camera and shown. For all of those who died and never had the opportunity for their videos to be taken, for that to be filmed, it never sent the same message. So yes, you granted to those people who say they never understood. So from now on, I think that if you are fighting against this, you need to get to the root. You need to say there is more behind what the black people are saying. That they have been marginalized for so long.
What do you say right now? Because I would say for 400 years, and I'm going to keep saying it, but we need to get to the root cause, right? I know there's a lot of black people right now that are saying, because I know for just the black Americans here and the black race all around the world, that every other race has come in to infiltrate and to step on. I felt like the black race has been a stumbling block for a lot of people for a long time. And it's only because of our compassion and our faith.
Correct.
And our conviction. And I've never met any race all around the world, and I'm saying this to the audience, that's like the black race.
Correct.
That's why we are the way we are.
That's forgiving,
Yes.
tolerant.
Because there's nobody that would have been oppressed for that long that wouldn't have rebelled. There's nobody. So the restraint has always been there for so long.
Correct.
So now what do we say to the group that's like, you know what? It's time for war. It's time to tear some stuff down so that we can rebuild again. It's really time for us to, because we're not going to take it anymore. You understand? That is really what's happening. What do you say? How do you approach that mindset? And that's really what I want us to kind of focus on and talk about right now.
I mean, for me, it goes back again we go to the root, and we go back to the original identity. And our identity is we were made in His image and likeness,
Yes.
in the Creator. And so when we get back to the root of, okay, who is the Creator? You know, who is God? You know, what is the story of Jesus that, you know, people have these sort of, you know, views on? If we really just get back to the root and really just understand, you know, that spiritual aspect, then we are begin to just, you know, stand in a place where mentally we just know who we are. We stand in that authority. And when we can stand in that authority, you know, it's really...
But what I'm saying is every other race, the white race, has the biggest military in the world, right? Chinese has the biggest military in the world. So all this Russia, all these superpowers, all these big economies, this big, you know, conglomerate systems that's out here, everything is still rooted in having security and securing your own, where nobody could just come in and take from your land. It feels that, and they are Christians too. I mean, these are all the people. You know what's going on. America has a big evangelical movement. So these are all Christians, and they have a Christian mindset. What are the blacks missing? What are we missing? Because I really feel that there's something that we're not, and that's why I say you speak truth to power. What is it about us as a race right now that everybody?
I think it's the divide. Again, I would say the biggest fear of every other race is the unity of the black people.
I love that.
Once we unite and get to recognize one another and recognize that it takes us to build the world, we've done it. There's a reason why, for reference to the Bible, why there was slavery. And if you look at it on another angle, God used that opportunity to put us, every country, you name it, and to put the seed of the black man in every country, to show that we are that significant. And that is why when a Chinese sees a black man, he's horrified. Any other race, you see a black man, you're horrified. It's your biggest nightmare, because you know the black color, the black person is so powerful. It is like you come face to face with what you're intimidated with. And the only way to get across that black person is, let me harm him. Let me kill him. Let me take him down before, you know, to show that I am superior. No, you are weak when you do that. So for black people, the only way we can stand up together is to, one, come, recognize each other, you're as significant. If you see a black person doing something, support them. There's seeds out there, dangerous seeds that are sown into our communities for us to hate one another, to destroy each other, to bring down one another. That's why we stand out as one of the only races that slanders each other the most. And it's shown on camera, and everyone celebrates it. They're happy that you're busy chasing one another, gunning down each other, and they call it, you know, gang violence and all of that. They imprison the black man more than they imprison any other race in the world, so that they make you weak, they disarm you. Also recognize that we own the wealth of I'll say that the world. I'll say that proudly. We build the world with our wealth. If you go to Africa, 30% of the world's wealth is in Africa, and they come and tap from it. So I believe that if we all start looking at our skills, our talents, our gifts, and we get them together and know that we can do it, we get to stand up and build and be respected.
Great point, Julia. Because we're talking, this will take us to the next, really one big issue that we're talking about, which is bridging the gap between the Africans and I'm going to start it off with Africans and the Black Americans in this country. And I want to say something specifically.
Just before we go into that conversation, I just wanted to add to that, you know, and, you know, I always have to mention the spiritual aspect, because if we don't understand that, it's kind of like we're just going to be focused on the physical.
Yes.
And so, because there's a mission of the enemy,
yes.
right? And
we'll talk about that.
You know, there's a mission of the enemy, and that mission is very clear: to kill, to steal, and destroy. And so, and if we look at it from that perspective, and we look at what's happening in our communities, that's very clear. You know what I mean? And if we look at, you know, what is even happening around the world, and, you know, the foundation and the root of the earth, you know what I mean? We know that that has been the mission, to kill, steal, and destroy. And it just happens to be a fact, that is a fact, that around the world, that people of darker skin, melanated color, have just been targeted as, you know, people who are, they're just, it's just like there's some sort of destruction.
You're sinful because of your color.
I don't know, you
your
know.
Your skin is your sin.
Right? It's like,
So,
what is that?
It's like
so
my skin is my sin.
you know what I mean? So I think also, we also have to recognize, as, you know, people of color, that we also have to be humble, you know, because at the end of the day, we, again, if you're a person who's a believer, and you look at, you know, just historically, what it shows is like, there's these chosen people, right? You know, God had the chosen people.
Yes, and we're going to talk about it.
And that was just, that's just a fact.
That's true. The original man.
Exactly. And so if we look at it in that way, and we look at, you know, just historically what is happening in the communities, we can look at what's happening, especially with the men in our communities.
Black is royalty.
No.
Right?
It's true. So
black is royalty.
So I mean, that will go into that can go into the conversation when we talk about, you know, how can we get things better? How can we?
So I can tell you guys the truth, and I'm gonna say this on the camera, right? The truth is, and this is America, I'm telling you guys the truth. And we look through the Bible, everybody that was enslaved for 400 years came back around and took over the same land, the promised land, and became. So it's a manifestation of destiny. So the people, the powers that be, already know that this America, and I say it all the time, the black Americans in this country, my favorite, the most resilient, the strongest, and only thing missing with the black Americans is Africans. We haven't united. That was it.
Yes.
Once those two, and that was their fear. So that's why they created a system for divide and conquer. Because everybody feels that they have to come to America, you know, because it's the Mecca. Back in the days, it used to be Egypt.
Egypt, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Where everybody went to the school. It had the biggest university, school of thoughts, all around the world, where people, and you had to go to Egypt. If you didn't go to Egypt, Alexandria, all those places, you were not known to be sophisticated. That's what was happening now. Okay, we have all these resources here in America. We've learned everything we need to learn about these people. And they, you know, nothing against them. They're the majority in this country. But we have a place, we have a land, we have a promised land that we also the majority of. Not just that promised land, even this land belongs to the black race. So a lot of things that's happening is knowing that we've oppressed a bunch of people for 400 years and they've been destined to take. So what we're going to do? We're going to poison the neighborhoods. Because they've been doing this since the beginning of time. They got rid of a whole tribe in the United States. You understand what I mean? The whole Indian tribe. So what do you think is going to happen to the blacks? So, but that's the system. I'm not ever going to say it's a race issue. I'm going to say the system here for the people that are in majority of here in America just happen to be white. So we're going to address it from that perspective. Because like Julia was saying earlier, we've seen white people matching with black people. We've seen white people helping her, trying to put her restaurant back in place. So you have to be smart enough to understand that that's not just the flesh. We think we use our spirit of discernment to be able to say, this is a bad person of a white race, and this is a good person of a white race. So we're not here propagating hate towards a whole race. We're not saying that we want to go fight a whole race, but we do know that we have to speak truth to power, and then we're ready to be in a position to start thinking about defense and how we protect each other.
And can I just add, you know, when we talk, you know, the whole black and white, you know, thing. Because, you know, I think I was sharing you guys earlier just a little snippet of the poem that I wrote regarding black and white, because the black and white, you know, if you look at a lot of things associated with black, is negative.
Yes.
When you look at a lot of things associated with white, it's positive.
But they're not even white.
Exactly. So there's no black yes, no Blackistan. There's no race actually.
This is white. I haven't seen any human being this color. Honestly, look, TV.
Exactly.
This is white. I haven't seen it would be Jesus Christ if I see somebody walk around here.
Exactly.
So that was the propaganda.
Exactly.
You have
So
to
it's
differentiate.
causing a
Yeah.
psychological. I
That's
would
all
call
it was.
psychological
Colors.
problems. And
Yes.
so I think it's important for us to be recognizing that too, because that whole black and white.
And
If we look at
yeah.
devil, angel, all those stuff, it's all programming that helps.
There's
us.
demons even within our,
Exactly.
like Pastor Lamb was talking about when he was preaching yesterday in church, and he was talking about race, and that's exactly how I see it. Because he started off talking about Africa, me growing up in Nigeria, and all the different tribes, and the things that we see we're all black there. So you see the tribal stuff, but it's our Hausa people oppressing Yorubas, and the Yorubas oppressing the Igbos, and these are all people of the same color.
Exactly.
That's in our country. You now come up here, so that's tribalism.
Yes.
When you come to America, you have to differentiate as a black and white, knowing for real that I'm not black, and this person is damn sure not white. If anything, knowing the history, the white should be black and black should be. Just knowing, I'm sorry to say, white people, you guys have a hell of a history, So it's like, how do we now moving into from this perspective on, knowing that there's some good white people and there's some good black people and there's some bad people we need to talk to. We have to start holding each other accountable, because so many people are like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. Yes, it does. It should matter to every single, all lives. And no black person should be shooting each other down. I remember 20, 30 years ago, if you approached somebody and said you killed another black man and you were a black man, the way people will look at you will be crazy. Now what's happening? We're taking each other's lives and stuff. So we need to speak to that also, because that's the dichotomy that I feel that we don't approach enough with this amount of intensity, because those are lives. We just last Friday just had to bury one of our co-hosts, Tawana Watt's son, that was gunned down in the streets of Chicago, and the mayhem that created. So it's like, yes, we're in Chicago and we're dealing with all this madness. It's time for us to now say, hey, as black folks, we need to do the same things that we're doing. As the same way we're trying to hold as white people accountable, we need to hold black people accountable for the same thing. So
to piggyback on what Julia said, there has to be that sense of unity.
Yeah.
Like we're not each other's enemies. We're here to build each other up. And when we come to that realization, and also just try to seize the narrative, because if you keep allowing other people to define you, they're not going to define you in a favorable light.
That's true.
So you have to get to a point where we're seizing the narrative. We're showing the world that we're helping each other. We're showing the world that we care about each other. We care about each other's good health. We care about each other's lives. So we have to get to that point of seizing the narrative and really finding ourselves again. Like I said, when other people have defined you for a long time, sometimes you
that's
kind
all
of
it
accept
is.
it.
It's all media.
It sips in
propaganda.
really slowly. And you
so typically,
it's
what do you black people want? You make a list of what you want and you go by it. I'm saying that with due respect of your blackness for one another, and at the same time, you demand what you need from the other race. And by so doing, you're not going after them and being, violent. You have to, I always say that black is royalty. You remember that you came from Africa, even if you did by the chain or you did by just taking a plane, you are royalty. The black color is royalty, and that's why you've been able to go through, resist all of this hatred for a long time without doing so much about it.
Yes, they can't get rid of it.
You've had to resist this for a long time without really losing yourself. They've tried to bury you, but you're still standing up and saying, I'm alive. That is the royal blood. You cannot take it away. Yeah. But this is what I believe we have to do going forward. I think there's a moment where you stand up and fight. You fight back. Fighting back as a community, not fighting back as individuals. Fighting back by coming, together when one person gets a hit. And I'll say this to Africans: when you see African Americans rioting or protesting or doing, you have to join them. Don't sit at your homes and just watch from your televisions and share, because then that's why they separate themselves from you. They think they are alone. You're not like them. You don't understand. We sit and we share and we talk. We don't go out there. I say this to myself as well. I've learned something. I need to be out there in the protest. I need to work. If white people can do that, if a few white people are out there on the street protesting, I think I need to take out time and go out there and protest as well. Once you see something, some wrongdoing being done. And I'm also encouraging all those people who are taking this as an advantage, taking this moment, taking advantage of the moment. Matter of fact, I'm not encouraging them. Taking advantage of this moment to go in and buy the properties so that the black race may be labeled as bad people. It will surely meet you down the line. And once we got that figured out, we all need to be sharing this information and going after these people, because they are the ones tarnishing the black image. We all need to be taking them up. If you find somebody, make sure you follow them up into where their cars are and everything. Make sure you get their plates and file a report. We file a report, and of course we bring them, we put them on the spotlight. Because a lot of people will now stand, like yesterday, there were vehicles that came in from Indiana.
Yeah.
Just to destroy Chicago.
That's a federal crime, by the way.
And then go back, saying the Chicagoans, of course, have done it again. So they come out and they break into the buildings, and of course, black people will show up and loot the properties. Again, black people have done it again. So stop taking advantage of the moment.
I don't even speak of the looting of properties, because that's an inanimate object. That is not a human being. That's not a, you get what I'm saying? To me, that's a non-issue, because the point is, the real issue is the guy that was kneeling down on another human being and took a life.
Exactly.
$1 billion is not even worth a life. So, and that's why I went into, we always talk about economic family and how we build things from ground up. We have to start investing in each other and looking at each other as what we are, human beings, not as properties. You know, for the longest time, probably in the Constitution, they had the black race as the 3/5 of a man. You understand? They never ever valued you to be on their point, because they have to, and that's really what they're always going to do with their media, with their every single thing they have, the power they have. They're always going to use it to shed a different kind of light on the black race.
Exactly, and just to speak to that, you know, again, I am first generation Nigerian in America.
Me too.
So, you know, I have an experience where I grew up, you know, in black communities, and then also had the experience of having, you know, both parents being from Nigeria.
Yes.
And so, I mean, many people can speak to that, you know, just having sort of that dual sort of, relationship or dual citizenship, and, you know, versus those who are just coming from Africa and coming down, right? And so I've gone through many experiences, you know, that the, African Americans have experienced in many ways, and I'm not going to share that here, but, you know, I can see how, again, when we talk about mentality, or we talk about mental health, and how these challenges, I mean, can definitely deter you. But again, thank God for, you know, the foundation of just spiritual grounding and the community of people that, you know, was around that deterred me from, you know, maybe going completely left. So, I mean, it's important for us as Africans, you know, to begin again to understand the root cause and find out what happened.
And stop being judgmental.
Find out what happened, because, you know, a lot of times, you know, Africans, you know, it was like a separate, you know, it's a divide.
We judge them. We look at them like a different...
Exactly, like they're just, those people, being. Or, you know, why are they like that, or they should be better, or, you know what I mean, they have all these opportunities when, you know, they've been here, so why are they, you know what I mean, but no, we need to stop having that conversation and start having a conversation, like Princess said, is like really sit and listen. Really sit and understand what happened, because if we sit and see what happened, I can sit here and say, I remember seeing images. I remember seeing, conversations about, who I was, what my skin color was, and how that made me feel, here. And the mentality gives you of who you are. You know what I mean? It's only because I have sort of this dual,
Thank God for we grew up back home.
Exactly.
I want to say that before you judge somebody, be sure to ask yourself this question. Is it your child that got killed? Do you have the facts? Has your child been taken away from your hands and murdered? Has your husband been killed before you? Before you judge somebody. And I think that even if you were in Africa, I know that for those who've gone through this kind of pain, their livelihood and their way of behaving and the society is completely different. And understanding when such crises arise. So if you're here and you're just reading up information online, do not judge until you are really, you know exactly the facts of the situation. Don't say they do not really have to mourn this way. I don't know what I'm going to do if someone abuses my child.
Julie,
I don't know the monster that is going to come out of me.
Julie,
if my daughter gets raped, I don't know what's going to happen, because I think that I'll be going out there with I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know that it's not going to be easy.
Of the black man being knelt on, and make sure it's the black guy kneeling on the white person.
Exactly.
And kill the white person. What do you think the white race will do?
Exactly.
No, let's just be real. What they will burn. They've been doing it for years. You can't touch one of them. It was 200 of the police officers protecting that one man that killed somebody. They've figured out how to, honestly, I don't know how to do it. Really preserve their race and preserve their
that's the
value,
unity they have.
That's what and they value, and that's one thing.
That's what we
that
don't
I
have
look
unity.
up to, and I look at them and I'm like, wow, you can't all around the world. Even when they travel, you can't just go and kill a white person. They're coming after you. And they're ready to burn down a whole village. And that is their mindset.
Even
but when
we
come to blacks, when we come to us, because we have this spiritual background, you come to a black man and we do all this stuff to them, the black person will say, well, the Bible, the church, and all, you get what I'm saying? So it's like knowing, and they will worship and vote for somebody that or a group that they have a gun in one hand and a Bible in the other.
Yes.
I really think, and that's really why I feel like it's time for me to step up and start speaking, because I understand both sides. I'm active in church, and I'm also from the streets. And I'm also from Nigeria. I'm also grew up in America, so I've seen it all. And I've been through their system, from the military system to I could talk about so many other things that my life has taken me. You understand? So I've seen it. So what I do understand is exactly what we're talking about. For us as a black race, what are we not doing right? Because we really need to get to the bottom of that. I want to say that
as
when it comes to protecting, if somebody is coming in to loot and kill your wife and your family and your children, how far are you allowed to go to make sure that this never happens again?
Listen, this thing again, it comes with our background in Christianity. I don't want us to be blind, put the blindfold of Christianity and forget our call to action and our call to duty. You cannot see someone do something wrong and hold the Bible in their hand, like you say, and say, oh, he's a Christian, so I can't do this to that person. No. I'll say this because you have someone in power who says, well, we're giving room for every school to have a Bible, to have Bible lessons. I'll say this. And then go ahead and say, kill them behind the scenes. So is that the person you're supposed to look up to because you're a Christian? And then because someone has to be honest and say, let the gay have their rights. Not that he's saying, let them have the right to live. But he seems to be saying, give every gay person a right to their existence and let God be the judge. We go ahead, because we are Christians, we criticize that person and say, he does not deserve to rule, to be a leader. I don't want us to look at this Christianity thing and use it to cover our eyes and encourage evil. Because that's what we're doing indirectly as Christians. If you see someone doing something wrong, there's one thing you can do. Vote, and vote right. Vote what you see. Vote your conscience. Vote the fact that you will not allow that person babysit your child. Vote the fact that you know very well children are caged and it is allowed because of that one person. I'm not trying to get political right here. I'm trying to say the things that are really destroying us. There's so many things that were said in this city. Yes. I'm just saying were said in this city in the recent years, 4 years I'm saying, that were said, you can go ahead and kill a black man and it's okay. I got your back. It was said indirectly and it's being done every day. And it's tolerated. I tell you, the people out there will say they're protected. You know, and they go out there and commit heinous crimes and then it's allowed. So I'm going to take a lift right here while you continue.
Okay.
just the start. This just the start. This just the beginning. This is the beginning.
To advertise with us, donate sponsorships and suggestions, email us at trendafricatv@gmail.com or call us on 773-312-0318 or 773-756-6678. Remember to also follow and like us as Trend Africa TV on Facebook so you can always catch us live. On Instagram as Trend Africa TV 123 or subscribe to our YouTube channel as Trend Africa TV and click on the notification button to watch previous shows. You can also visit our website for your African news, entertainment, fashion and sports updates on www.trendafricaonline.net. Trend Africa TV Radio.
Julia.
So welcome back. Thank you for joining us again at Solutions Talk Orbit. That was a weird exit from me. I had to address something very significant and I'm sorry about the way I took off. Well, we're back here and right now is the time for solutions. What can we do about it? We're hearing all the cries left, all the cries right, forth and center. So how can we bring healing in all of this and how can we move forward? You know, you see different governments trying to, you know, come up with ways to curb the violence and to make sure that the protesters are a lot organized. What can we do to keep passing on that message? Because I think that there's a shift from protesting to just now violence and rioting, and we've moved away from what we're supposed to be focused on as those cops, those killers. How can we put an end to it, and how can we bring healing to the Black community?
Yeah, I think it starts with, you know, having that equal justice under the law, because a lot of people feel like, what's the point? You get, I was telling AJ about a story where someone was like, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. I probably will still end up in jail, you know, no matter what I do. So I could as well go the other way. So it's more of like the government, the systemic institutions making that point, like they value every life. So it's more of like a deliberate attempt to ensure that there is always justice. The justice for everyone who has died by someone who thought themselves to be a judge and executioner when they were not. So I think it starts with that, because that's, you know, on the surface what's causing the current uproar. So there has to be that equal justice. There has to be a change in, you know, the systematic and institutionalized racism. It has to be tackled, really. You know, you have to make sure that everyone is treated fairly. You know, we're all equal under God, so you have to make sure that everyone is treated fairly. Everybody has that chance, and everyone has something to look forward to, something to hope for. You know, people are not just living to die, because it's when people don't have a sense of purpose, you see, you know, them in quotes acting out. So you have to give people something to live for and hope. Yeah, you can come in.
Yeah, so, you know, as I'm listening to you, you know, there's this conversation that's out there right now it's called, you know, compassion fatigue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or just people are fatigued, tired of the justice conversation.
Tired of being
you know what I mean?
tired.
Because it's like, you know, we're continuing this fight of like justice, but when will it come?
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, I look at it as there's definitely a radical approach that needs to happen.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And with that radical approach, you know, comes with, again, bridging that gap between African and African Americans.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? That looks like Africans, you know, actually, we talked about it a little bit earlier, it's actually reaching out. We have the resources, you know what I mean? If I take it into like a mental health perspective, or we talk about counseling and what that looks like, it's better to have someone who understands, right?
Yeah.
You know, what's happening or has gone through that experience, to talk to that person and to relate to them, because you're almost like you're building a friendship, you're building a relationship with people. And of course we've seen, you know, the European race who have come and they've come into the communities and they've tried to help in so many different ways, but a lot of times they're bringing a lot of monetary resources or whatever, and that's, you know, obviously that's just not it. That's not what it's going to take. What it's going to take is for us as Africans to come and say, you know, we understand. These are our brothers and sisters. Plain and simple, is a fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is a fact. And even for me, I had to realize that it was a fact. You know, when I was teaching at one point, and I just looked and I was like, wow, this is definitely someone from West Africa, because as Africans, especially West Africans, and we know, you know, historically that's where, you know, Black Americans come from. We have the same mannerisms. You know, Africans are loud.
Exactly.
And
like to
Black
shop,
Americans
like to party.
It sounds like we are one and the same.
Yes,
and when
yes.
we start to realize that we're one and the same, and we can just begin to relate to them. Not only that, if we look at fact, as Africans, we're not experiencing those same, you know, tragedies as African Americans, and we have to look at why. Why is that, right? Yeah. And so if we bring our that understanding, if we bring our resources, if we bring, you know, the financial aspect of what we have into the community, and begin to invest into the community, and begin to just, you know, instead of being on the north side, I'm going to put that out there, come invest into the south side.
I was just about saying that. It takes, look at all the successful Black men and Africans who are out there, even the celebrities. It's going to take them to start investing in Black community. Now stop looking at what the other people do. Okay, the banks are not. What banks are you going to create and invest in? What Africans are going to put up the applications, their business application out there, and you're going to fund? Who do you want to encourage? Start with one person as a successful black person. Encourage one more black person in the community. Start with your root states or your root cities. So, and once we are doing all of that, I think that the blacks are going to be recognizing and respecting the black power a whole lot more. You cannot be a successful black person and just talk about you. We're busy supporting you. NBA players, we're supporting you. All the musicians and stars and athletes, we're supporting you. So while we're doing that, I think that you can do some work for your community by just coming and investing in a few people. And move them forward too. That is going to encourage so many people to come together as black people and support one another. And at the same time, I'm talking about the community here. I'm saying Africans here in the West and the diaspora versus Africans back in Africa. We have to have a league of doctors right here, work with a league of doctors in Africa to say the African Doctors League, and have them teaming up to see how we can build Africa and here and communities right here. We look at a league of nurses, African nurses abroad and African nurses in Africa, who will come together and form one community where you can get I'll give an example. Coronavirus is going on right now. I think the African nurses back home have the power to encourage the African nurses right here to say these are the natural I'll say that natural and herbal medicine we're using to help our community stay alive. I think if you have this information, you can help the black community from dying back in the West. And with all of these entrepreneurs back here in the diaspora, working with entrepreneurs back home to see how we can help and develop one another and our communities here in the diaspora and in Africa. If we do that in every career, I think we'll move forward. If we're not doing that, we're not united.
Yes, I mean, for the longest time, I think it's time for us to really invest in each other, invest in our families. And I'll tell you one thing. I'm not a politician. I call it politics. You know, the Bible teaches us you can't be of the world, you have to be outside of it. You have to think outside of it. You have to understand that sometimes I have to catch myself because I'm like, oh, I'm functioning like people that's part of a political system. I work outside of a whole different kind of system, which is the kingdom system. In this system, right, the way we function is servicing one another and looking after one another and loving each other and building and paying it forward. Look, there's nothing wrong with investing and only investing in your race. That's what everybody else has done to move forward. Nothing wrong with building a strong enough family. Once we are strong enough, we can reach out to the rest of the world and say, yes, you guys can be part of what we built. Because that's what every other race did. China took time to build themselves up. They built their empire. Now they're inviting people to come over. The issue that we have as blacks and those of us in the African diaspora and the ones here is that we've never had that connection. It's happening now in Ghana. You guys can see all the migration and the exodus that's happening back because they have a great president over there and he's very welcoming. And for the first time in a long time, Black Americans are starting to see what Africa really looks like.
Yes, I was there in December and you had a bunch of African Americans come just run in and they were treated so greatly that they're all planning to go back and they're buying properties.
Yes.
You have a lot.
But you know what happened?
I had a few of them that I met there that came here, met me in Chicago, and they're going back for, to buy.
So and that's why I want to tell you about a system. So what a system does, let's say this stuff start happening all over Africa and all over all the countries in Africa and everybody. You know what's going to happen? They're going to come up with a disease again, like an AIDS or something. They would say that came from South Africa. Guess what? No tourism is going back there. So this thing of us living in fear.
But actually, this is why we should not be afraid of
that
because we have a wealth of skilled physicians and
but once it goes
who
out,
should be able to believe in themselves.
But once it goes out, so they've been using this to keep, because Americans don't want you to spend their money. You taking American dollars. Black consumerism is what's keeping America alive. Now you're trying to tell people, AJ, you're telling people to start going and taking their dollars to Africa. First of all, they're coming after me. And secondly, they're now going to create a system because they've only been able to enjoy this country because a lot of us have come from outside of the country to spend money here. Anytime you tell them I'm about to send $10,000 to Nigeria, you will see the FBI and everybody come knocking on your door. What's $10,000? You understand? Because the system is being set up to continue to build this country. Whereas we have a home in Africa that we can also focus on. What's wrong with that?
I mean, and to just to, you know, kind of go back a little bit, right? Because, you know, if we focus too much on American system, you know what I mean? And we don't, again, we got to go back to the spiritual.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Because even if we go to, you know, the continent of Africa, there's a lot of different things that's happening on the continent of Africa that does not, you know, necessarily include, you know, I mean, it has a lot to do with the influence of the American system. You know what I mean? But again, it goes back to that spiritual aspect of that enemy that has a mission to kill, steal, and destroy. And so, because he's here to steal, kill, and destroy, that means there's something inside of us individually, right? That we need to honor and that we need to recognize.
Correct.
That we need to control.
Yes. Correct. True.
Right? Because if we go to Africa and we take it to Africa and that aspect of that, you know, the enemy that's just trying to keep us down is still in us, we're gonna have the same problem in Africa.
Yeah, it's true.
You get what I'm saying?
It's
we're gonna have the same problem here in on the south side of Chicago trying to build, because kill, steal, destroy. The enemy does not want unity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Divide.
Just divide.
And that's why we have 3,000 tribes in Africa, and then the major language is English here is spoken all around the world. So it's a lot of issues that we need to go into.
So when you talk about the kingdom aspect, you know, we have to understand what is that, you know. I would say, you know, I went through the Leading Lights training, plug to the Leading Lights training where you find out your God-given purpose. Okay. And with that, you know, I know that I'm here to build kingdom thinkers. Kingdom thinkers, and when you have a kingdom mindset, you know, the color becomes obsolete. Right?
Sad to say,
you know what I mean. It does become obsolete, even though no
color in the spiritual realm.
There's no color in the spiritual realm. Although you know it's going to be coming, and you want to see it.
Yes, that's the physical.
One of the ways I try to help myself, and this is this is nothing to do with white people. Please don't take it offensive, but I just say, you know, unfortunately, you know, the enemy used the white body, it was just a physical thing, to, you know, to execute some things that.
Well, I just said we're in America.
They've executed some very dangerous thing, and it's not just here in America; it's all over the world.
It's all over the world.
And so, but it's the enemy. You know what I mean? And so we have to really focus on kingdom thinking. You know, the spiritual.
But you know the funny thing? Would you think?
Starting with your people.
Would you think that? Would you think the white race are kingdom thinkers?
I mean, absolutely, absolutely. But again, It's I don't say all white people are bad or whatever, but there are a certain amount of people that were used right to execute some certain things, and unfortunately we see them as they're white skinned.
I think when we start with, it says right here, I read this book, starting with your people. If you want to win other people, other races over, you want to start with your people. In your own household, if you want to teach people how to respect you from the outside, you have to start with your people. Show the respect to your kin at home. And then it goes into the community. Starting with your people is the best way. And I think that it takes the black people to start among themselves, respecting one another. If you see a black brother, respect that brother. If you see a black sister, respect that sister. Give a helping hand to any black person you see across the aisle. And I think that with that, we will command respect into our own community. We will bring that respect into our community. You cannot be fighting with your own brothers and sisters and expect someone, an onlooker, to respect you. Once they see an opportunity to come inside and encourage that divide, they come in and take advantage, and they're able to say, okay, set you up to be abusing one another. But once they see that there's a strong bond between you all, it is difficult to infiltrate your community. So starting with your people, start with respecting one another. Start with respecting your brother, your sister, their children. You see a black kid across from the street from you, help that kid. If they're lost, where do you need to get to? Can I get you to where you need to get to? Because it's a child, he's innocent, she's innocent. Help them get to, protect them because they're children.
Yes.
I think with that, we become our own best neighborhood watchdogs, protecting our own community.
For the white race, and I would say this, the scariest thing that you can do is the power of the dollar, right? So understanding that T.I. came up with something recently, and he was saying for one day that we don't spend $1, right? And then they did the math. I think it was about 10 billion or what, I forgot what the numbers, the actual numbers were, that we saved just if we didn't spend $1. And in my head, I was like, imagine if we spent that dollar right back into the community, you understand? And find a way to filter that out through all the other black diasporas all around the world. So us, we have to start thinking economically. Because it's, and I tell people this all the time. They say, hey, we want to be equal. And I have to ask, I always have to tell people, equal to what? And I'm serious when I say this. Equal to what? The same system that went around the world to oppress, to infiltrate, and divide and conquer every single African and break them down into different tribes. You know, the same thing that broke down languages, the same people that enslaved and looked down on people and feel that they're superior. I don't think that's what my equality lies. I don't never in my life waking up one morning and say I want to be equal to that system. The system that we're talking
we should define
equality,
ourselves and create our
it's
own.
that kingdom system.
Yes.
And if you want to tap into the kingdom system and understand how we should think, the right way of thinking, the right way of concentration, the right way to act around one another, just the right way to talk to one another. You have to be part of that kingdom-minded, that like-minded things. And that's really what I think has to be brought to the black community, is that separation. I've never been the type. They're never going to welcome you into their system. That's not part of it. It's not in their blood. They wiped out a whole race. And because they're the majority in this country, they feel that they have the power to be able to do whatever they want to do. It's time for us to take the power away from them through all actions by any means. So from economical, we're going to go after them. Physically, if we have to defend our own, we're definitely going to defend our own, because it's not going to continue to happen. I can imagine if somebody has put their knee on my son and I was standing right there, I'm sorry to say, this will not be what AJ, you will not see me here talking today about what I'm saying right now. I'm sorry. And I'm a Christian. And I'll have to go to God and say, God, forgive me for my sin later on, and I will still make it to heaven.
No, there's no God. There's such a thing called defense.
I'm serious. So, I mean,
and
there's,
God,
no, I'm just saying between me and God.
I wanted to come in so bad.
No, because Moses, no, I'm saying, and you still have to repent
There's no sorry
for
God.
my actions, because it's going to be out of
somebody.
anger.
It's not
can I
out
come
of
in?
anger.
You can come in.
Can I come in? I'm behind the.
And put the camera on yourself. Put the camera on yourself.
I'm good. Let me be behind.
We want to see your face.
Actually, I think everything that we're saying is amazing, it's beautiful, and things like that. But there's one thing that we have to build a foundation of understanding.
Yes.
I think that is what we are missing.
Yeah.
If I understand you, you will respect me.
Exactly.
If I understand you, you will love me.
Exactly.
So we have to play we have to educate our people with some understanding. They should understand.
Yep.
When you understand where you come from, you understand that you don't let nobody to push you around. When you understand your language, you know how to communicate with your people right. You understand who you are. So understanding should be the foundation. If I understand you, we can have business together.
Exactly.
We can put our heads together. So when this is what I don't want to play the race card over here, but it is what it is right now. Listen, this is what the white people did to us. For us not to understand each other.
Yeah.
They understand each other. That's why they are progressing. Yes. That's why they are where they are. Today, I'm telling you today, black Africans and black Americans, we are one people, but we don't understand each other.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because we feel like our culture is different from their culture. The reason why black Americans are in America is because of us.
Yes.
And the reason why I will come to America because of black Americans who live here.
Exactly.
That makes things easy for me to come here.
Exactly.
You understand? They build but it is our mission and our cause to let them understand their culture, so that they can follow us to come to our land. Now, Africa, we have people in Africa that are not Africans, but they are, listen, they are taking our resources and building their country.
Exactly.
Right now that I'm talking to you right now, the like of Chinese people are in Africa, making money and not planting anything in Africa, but they're taking the resource and making money and taking it back to their country.
Don't you wish that was black
now,
Americans doing
if
that?
black Americans understand us and we understand them, they should be there doing that.
Exactly.
So understanding should be the foundation. That will, listen, if we have the understanding as a foundation, all these things will fall in place.
Listen, for a long time now, they've had to put all these images about Africans being monkeys coming. Even you see here African Americans say this, that Africans are like monkeys that come from trees. And that's an image that they have been shown. It is our place as Africans to inform and educate them. That's not the Africa that is existing. That Africa is a wealthy nation. And that Africa is not only monkeys. Monkeys is just part of Africa. Yes, there are monkeys right there, and it culminates to the wealth of Africa. There are people living in bushes and in different places, but that's like in every other country. Right here in America, there are people living under the bridge. So you know, with every community, there's going to be the people in the rural areas and the people going to be in the urban areas. And the people who are really suffering, there's poverty everywhere. But what we need to let them and educate them is the things that can be done by them to give Africa the face it deserves. So, and I'll say this again, I'll take it back to the statement I originally said. The celebrities that are out here, those who have the experiences of traveling across the world, the globe. I'm talking about the Jay-Z's and the Beyoncé's. I'm talking about all these people who are doing this. They need to start encouraging African Americans, because they are the face of progress for the African American people, to go back to Africa, to see what is there, to give a few people some trips. Go to Africa and learn about your end. This year it started with the year of the return. I'll tell you, if you were in Ghana, you will be proud as an African, because the unity, the excitement that was from these African Americans was, and you have a lot of them who are planning to go back this year. So much such that the messages that were coming from Ghana made Ghana heroic across the globe. And the system again is putting information out there to try to destroy that. The system is trying to say, hey, beware of people who are trying to scam you guys and all of that. They're trying to dissuade African Americans here from going to invest over there for, you know, but again, we as Africans have to stand out and say, don't be discouraged, because the Chinese are doing it. They're discouraging you, but the Germans are going there. I saw them. You have the Europeans, the British, all of them are going back there to take the resources. Educate, inform them, and show them the beautiful places you come from, the beautiful family, and they need to know about the culture. Our culture is dignity. Our culture, our various and diverse culture, is what I see in as royalty. We have kingdoms, we have fiefdoms, we have chiefdoms, and all of these have some form of hierarchy. And I say, when you look at England, that saying the Queen and all of that, I think that came from Africa. So this structure comes from Africa, and I think that if we start going by it and informing them of what they can get by just even earning titles back home for excellence, it will help them a lot. And listen, when you go into Africa, when you go into Ghana, when you go into Nigeria, you see the structure of certain communities. These are the countries that own the wealth of the world. I want to say this because a Nigerian owns his property, has paid for it by cash. He's not dealing with loans. An American will stay right here. You bought that property, you're putting it on loans, and after a long time it's taken away from you. You cannot do that in Africa. Your property is yours, your land is yours. Now, encourage them to go there and buy and own properties. And again, they have more time in their hands to enjoy one another, to go out there and have fun without being judged, and be a lot happier. I cannot imagine how a teacher back home in Africa who own a house, a teacher right here is having a difficult time just trying to, pay rent, and to put a roof over their head. You understand? So we have a lot of skilled African Americans here who will be very useful with knowing that they have so much to offer to Africa.
Great point. Also, the thing that bothers me, and we're talking about understanding each other. You know, I noticed a lot of Africans, we're quick to, you know, we're going to tell people what our stuff is, but we're very scared. Like we were talking about earlier, to even go to the South Side.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're very scared to even go into their house. So let's be real. You get what I'm saying? We don't want to associate with the Black Americans because we have been stigmatized and programmed, right?
Exactly.
To think that we can't help a family. I mean, we were talking about Tawana earlier, and that's a family that we've been working with through the Life Development Center. And just when we were there on Friday, and the things that she was saying, and everybody that came to the church, they were like, who are these people that just gave up everything? And she was like, no, those are my African family. I love the fact that she said that to all other Americans. They were like, oh yeah, and because they already had their, you know, their own pre-existing thoughts about what an African is supposed to be. So everything starts with you. Yeah. It starts with your character. It starts how you interact with people on a daily basis.
And let's distinct that, right?
Yes.
This is kingdom-minded Africans.
Yes.
There are definitely those who are not.
Oh yeah, different.
Kingdom-minded.
Yes.
You know, Africans, and
yes.
so you know, I think that's very important to distinguish because you know there's a light that shines again when we're operating to our
full capacity.
Our full capacity.
Yeah.
You know, when we're shining a light in which you know how God created us to be.
Yes.
You know that just that takes out the darkness. That just you know it just lights it up. And so I think that's what you know she saw. You know, in the interaction, that's what the family saw, and that's what we can bring to the community as a people.
And that's it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those who are kingdom minded.
Invite them to your church.
Exactly, and then even going back to the understanding, right? Is way we could a solution is actually investing into the children
and that's
because
what
they
we
are
did.
the way of the
and
future.
that's what we've been doing.
Right?
Yes.
It's investing into the children because. Investing into the educational systems. One of the things, you know, for Pure Unity, this is a plug, is that we really do want to build an educational system where we can take kids, you know, to Africa. So because one of the things, even for me, I was born here, raised here, but I'm telling you, when I stepped onto the continent of Africa, it was like
the feeling is different.
It's a whole spiritual. It's a whole spiritual.
You know, because it was just like wow. Because
but
here,
if you notice, there's nobody who's traveled to Africa. I'm saying other races included.
You will know when
that
they come back.
Haven't changed your perspective.
Yeah, you will know when they come back.
Here. You cannot go to Africa and come back without feeling more humbled and more.
Just
without being a
appreciate it.
different person.
Just appreciate it.
Because the way the community treats you is completely different. Yeah. And whether you are originally from Africa or not, you feel the difference. Each time I look for that place where I need to be happier, I think of I need to take that vacation to Africa. And I'll tell anybody, if you know that you have this, you have been mentally abused with all of this, it's time to take a trip. If you've been mentally abused all your life, I'm saying that with all that is going on, if your relative got shot, if anyone got shot, I think that you need to take a trip to Africa. You need to go to the land of healing. And once you do that, you come back a different person.
And those of us that are here, it's time for us to start, like Marcus Garvey and everybody said, to start planning a trip back. It's called, the Exodus. You have to start thinking about what's happening because you have to give back.
Right.
Correct.
So what happened is a fertile land, and everybody left to come over here and fertilize this land, right? And left that place barren, right? So our mindset really has to be, how are we going to impact? You know, that's why we have Trend African TV, where we can show this show all across, Africa, so people can see a lot of the movements and what we're doing.
That's really good. And if we even take that, say, here in America, right?
Yes.
Because I remember I'm coming from, Los Angeles to Wisconsin to Chicago. Okay. Now, coming to Chicago, there was like, I wasn't familiar with north, south, east, west. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because in Los Angeles, that's just not the way it was set up. But coming to Chicago, it was like, you need to go to the north side. Now, I ended up coming to the south side because I grew up in, Inglewood, California, and Los Angeles. So this, south side is not something that scares me or anything like that. But it's just a mentality of for me, being on the South Side, I understood why so many people was like, okay, I don't even want to go back. I don't want to stay here, right? Because the struggle in the Black community is real, right? And so I got an understanding of why, you know, there's a conversation in the Black community where it's like, oh yeah, you're a sellout. You know what I mean? In the same way we can say Africans, or you're a sellout because you're not giving back. You're not gonna, you know, you're not going back to give back.
Exactly.
But there's also a struggle in Africa. You know what I mean? That we also have to look at.
Yeah.
There's a struggle.
Yeah. So good point. Please, I have to say this. We have seen, and all of us have family members. We have seen people, especially in the last few years, come to America. I've seen people leave jobs. They were bank directors, right? Running a bank to come to America. I'm telling you, to come and do the kind of work that they would never do back home.
Exactly.
And that you have to understand this disease and what's really happening to even us. And I have to check myself for that.
Exactly.
Because we will come here. We can never drive a cab over there in Nigeria or Africa to make money. But we'll come here and become, you understand what I'm saying, right?
No, you throw your entire livelihood.
Yes.
Say you were going to school back home. You had these dreams of becoming an engineer. You come right here and you throw that all behind and you say, I'm a cab driver. And you go for years behind the wheel, and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you present yourself back home in Africa, you immediately become another person. And you claim this other status. You're
so
not.
we got to help each other build our own, and because we got to get back.
It goes back to understanding.
I think I want to come in. Can I come in?
Yes.
I think you know, it's all about the system.
Yes.
Like last time I talked to AJ about building a system out of a system, or building a system in a system. You know, when you look at the way United States is built, it's built in a way that, or the system is built in a way that Black people have to follow. We cannot be a leaders here. We are always followers. I'll tell you straight up. Barack Obama became a president, but he's still a follower. Because there's some things that he cannot do. Because of Black. Period. Now, Black Africans and Black Americans have to build a system here.
Correct.
In the system. Because
Correct.
Chinese people are doing it. Jewish are doing it. I
Yeah.
mean, name it. They are doing it. They are not breaking any United States law, but they built a system that will actually educate us, empower us in finances. I mean, every position that can make us who we are. That is what we have to do.
But I have to say something, Black, and you're right about the system. But one thing that I want people to really understand is they're after us. Every time we decide to build a system, there was, back in the 20s and the 30s, the Black experience, the Renaissance time, Black people were wealthy. The whole IPOC you're looking at, they built Wall Street and everything.
Black Wall Street?
Every time we step up to bring forth our excellence and we start a movement within this system, they have other systems that's set up to tear it down. From the Black Panther movement to any movement to Malcolm, you know,
we don't have to stop.
We don't.
Because listen, if we stop, we become failure.
Right.
We won't stop.
We don't have to stop. The more they try to stop us, the more we push
So
it
the
through.
system you're talking
A time
about,
will come
Black Jesus.
That will be like, okay, listen.
You know, the system you're talking
Lord.
about is exactly what we've been talking about, which is spending money. Because the system is only about money. You know, the only thing that these people had over us as Africans, I'm telling you, is when they created money. And it was man-made. There was only one resource that we couldn't fathom that didn't come into the Black existence. Because as Black people, we lived based on bartering system. We took care of our family. You get what I'm saying? You went out to hunt, and you taught everybody in the household trades that's going to end up coming back to help the family. We have been conditioned to think in a community sense. They think in a capitalism sense, right? So we now have to figure out, go back to the root and say, you know what? Once we start thinking collectively like, look, we're just going to do business with each other and figure it out from that point on. That is a lot of battle being won already.
Let me say this. We already have a structure, but we're not using it correctly. The power of the church. The black person goes to church
Kingdom,
more than any other person in the world I know. Just imagine, remember the Trinity Church we visited? That a whole church comes together and puts money in the basket and gives it to one black person to say, you start your business. Because that person came out with a plan. You start helping the black community. And I think that because of that, the number of people that will be going to that particular church is going to increase. I'm saying that every given sermon, or every given Sunday, or every given church day, depending on whatever community you're in, think about one person in that church that needs to be encouraged, that needs to be a leader, and we pour that love into that. And then the person goes out there and builds. We're supporting that person. I'm saying that we could flip this and turn it around. And you cannot get into the church and destroy it.
This is a very good point.
Go ahead, Black.
Listen, I'm looking at the black community, right? When I go to the south side of Chicago or the west side of Chicago, you ask yourself, how many black businesses do you have there? I don't know. Maybe for me, this opinion,
it's not a lot.
0. Guess what? Every corner store that you see somebody different in there.
Yes, Arab, Pakistani.
You understand?
Correct.
So they're taking it's the same thing in Africa. Black people have to change the mindset.
Starts from the mindset.
We even the south side Chicago that we call it our home. It's not our home because we don't own anything.
You don't own nothing.
The buildings that you see owned by somebody different.
Exactly.
We just live there.
We're renting.
And that's why I said. That's why
when we start owning things, we build a community.
That's why I said you have all these black successful people who said, okay, there's black excellence, there's black business people, there's black celebrities.
I have to hear that black successful because if I start to talk about them, I don't see them as nobody.
This is the
because guess what? When the good leaf come out from them, or when they come out from, we put the soil. I mean, they plant a seed. They are one of the seed. Now they bear fruit. Guess where they go? They leave the project alone, and then they go to
somewhere else,
and they build that place.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Just like we left Africa,
and then we come here, and we are not going back.
And we're not going. But that's the same thing. The same thing.
And that's why I brought up the factor of why it was hard for me, because I remember being on the south side, and one of the things I struggled with was like, okay, I was just trying to get insurance for my car, y'all, and they were charging me for liability, like the price of liability was the price for full coverage for 4 people on the north side.
Try to get a loan.
The struggles, right? So to me, I was like, okay, I need to just get up out of here. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to deal with that. But we're gonna have to deal with that. We're gonna have to come in and just come in the neighborhoods. We're gonna have to deal with the reality of the behaviorisms that we see in the black community. We're gonna have to deal with the violence that is currently happening in the community. And we cannot be afraid. Why we can't be afraid? Because God has not given the spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. So therefore, if we can get into that mentality, and it might not be for everybody, but those who are serious and those who understand that this is what we need to do, we just have to do it.
I have a question.
Let's get tired.
What happens? This is not a silly question, but it may sound silly. What happens if the black community says, we're going to take off all the guns from our community, and if anyone, and put up leaders, if anyone is bringing any guns into the community, the person is against us. We're going to take up all the guns from our community so we don't harm one another, so we don't hurt one another. And anyone coming into this community with guns, that person is against us. And then we have a few people out there who are going to stand out and be there for us. So we have a few people who are going to be out there and be leaders for the community, that we're going to say, these are community watchdogs. These are community leaders that are going to say, okay, these people can protect us. If something is going, just like in Africa, I tell you, I come from a tribe where if a man had to be violent and beat his wife, the fund will send his leaders and they'll bring you to the palace and they'll sanction you. They'll beat you and show you you're never supposed to do that again. From my tribe, from where I hail from, in Cameroon. So you cannot beat on a woman and it be tolerated. So you have leaders in the community where if somebody becomes violent, they get sanctioned by a group of leaders. I'm just saying these are things that we could institute, but it starts with a particular community selling that message. These guns we're using against one another. I know there is, what if the white people or the other races, they infiltrate our community and attack us? No, there's a way. Listen, there's a story of David and Goliath. And I know that even though it may seem as though you do not have the weapons, you can always stand and fight. I know from the Cameroonian community right now, a community that never had guns. They started fighting with the French people came in and started abusing us. They took the guns and fought back. That is an attack from an outside community. So that you already know you're defending yourselves. But I'm saying that so we protect a community, like protecting my own household. I don't know why I should keep a gun in my own house. I know that there's stories where a 4-year-old has had to pick up a gun and shot the babysitter because they're angry. So you may find that you're keeping the gun because you're trying to protect your household and protect yourself from the police and all of that. And before you know, once you engage yourself in an argument with your spouse, that's a weapon you use against your spouse. So I'm saying, what can we do? Is it a good thing to say we should take off the guns from our?
Well, I would say that, you know, that's one aspect, right? Yeah. You know, if I'm AKA the moral philosopher, right? Yeah. You know, it's when we talk about a system. If we're building a system, how does a system being created? We're creating our values. You know, we come together and we're talking about those values. When we talk about the systems that other races have built, and we even specifically the Jewish community. Correct. I mean, amazing, right? Yeah. And so therefore, that is going to take something. It's going to take, you know, some people actually, you know, going into the policy or politics, right? To change some policies, right? That says in this area, this is how we actually want to live. In our schools, we actually do want to pray. In our, you know, in our communities, we want to be off on Sunday. Nobody's working on Sundays.
Correct.
In our community, this is how we want to live amongst our people, and we stand on those values and principles and saying, for this community, we need the government to acknowledge that this is how we want to live here.
Have you guys noticed that when you go to the south side, when you go to the suburbs and things like that, I mean, Womet and all those things, they don't have corner stores?
Exactly.
Yeah. They don't.
Did you ask yourself why?
Liquor stores and all of that.
Because they build a community that tells what you are saying, that we don't want all these things. We can have a gas station that have everything. It's well put together.
Yeah.
There's countries where,
because when you have a corner store, you have corner people there.
They don't have guns. Yeah. There's countries.
They don't have guns.
In London, I mean, you got a London background, police, everybody.
I mean, not only corner stores. There's no McDonald's. There's no food. You know, things that we know that's not good.
So
for
they
us.
build they have a residence. They don't have even the community is a residence community.
Yeah.
In the South Side, Chicago, and all that, our community is really a marketplace.
Yes.
Because the building that you live in have a 3 corner stores or 3 whatever that they have.
3 churches.
So
let me tell
you just get down, buy what you have to buy, and you just stay at the corner.
In Inglewood, it's over 360 churches. In that same Inglewood, the worst area in Chicago, probably in America that we're talking about. So for the longest time, I think the church really have to get together. Their bodies. That's all.
I don't want to get into the church.
No, I'm talking about because they have to get together. Something is wrong. When you're living in a community that has a bunch of churches and is the poorest community around, that means the real essence of what the church is about, or what care is about, and looking out for your neighbor is around. It's already being misunderstood, and there's a gap. So. As a unit, as a union, like that could what would work is us to be able to establish a common front with the kingdom. How the Catholics was set it up. You know, the Catholic is a big business.
Yes, it's a structure.
It's a big structure. You know, but we have division within our own.
Listen, I'm from the Catholic Church. Let me say this: there is not a single Catholic church you'll visit on that Sunday that they're not reading the same gospel that day. It is so organized, which means that if it's done in Rome, the first reading is the same thing that is happening in every other church. They're just different heads, different leaders, and all of that. And I'm also saying that you can set up that kind of structure.
But Islam is the same way. When they call the Adhan,
but do you see how they support one another?
Yes.
You cannot
look at the family structure.
Take down a particular Muslim and the Muslim community goes to sleep. It's not going to go to sleep. Everyone is going to stand up. And I'm saying this for Christians. If we call us, we should stop. Listen, you're a Christian, I'm a Christian. What's the point of fighting with you about what is in? We're all praying in the same Bible. I think we should be worried about the people we need to convert out there. The people we need to bring into Christianity.
And that's the problem. We don't have... that's the problem. I mean, I call myself the modern day Christian. You know what I mean is that when I call myself a modern day Christian, I don't have to convert.
I'm not saying that. That's not my point.
I don't want you to become a Christian. I want to understand you so that you understand me. If we have that philosophy in our Christendom or our religious whatever that we believe in, there will not be any hurt, or nobody will hate anybody.
No, because we spend time bashing one another.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to let whoever know that yours is better than.
Yes.
That's the problem. But if I understand you as a Muslim, I understand you as a Jewish, I understand you as an Irish Krishna, and I'm a Christian, I understand where you come from, and you understand where I come from, it will take us from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So that converting these people from these and
that's
this,
what I'm saying.
It becomes problem.
That's what my point is. To my point, Black, it's okay. It's like saying you're a Nigerian, I'm from Cameroon, and you're from Ghana, and we say, okay, we're all Africans, right? It solves it. So let's think about what we can do to move forward. Versus, why are you a Nigerian? Why are you saying you're a Nigerian? Or why are you saying you're a Ghanaian? Why can't you be a Nigerian? Why are you focused on changing someone's identity? My root, as I always tell everyone, the reason I'm right here talking to you humbly is because I come from that root of Christianity. That Catholic church you're trying to sell me out of. You're trying to tell me I cannot be that person because it is bad. You're trying to sell all these other ideas that I don't know about. It's something I don't know. You're trying to tell me that there's voodooism that was practiced, and I was never practicing voodooism in the church. So that becomes a fight for me, a conversation which is not supposed to happen. The conversation should be, now that you're a brother, a Christian, you are a Pentecostal, you're a kingdom person, I am a Catholic. What can we do to our community? Because we recognize one another as children of God. What can we do in our community to move forward? To make sure that there is respect. To do what? To follow the 10 Commandments. It's that easy. Love your neighbor as yourself. To follow the 10 Commandments. To make sure that you help one. Do not covet your neighbor's wife. Do not steal. What can we do to follow the 10 Commandments? To me, it comes down to the basics. What can we all do to follow the 10 Commandments? But once we focus on talking about things that do not move us forward, and the other races do know, because we bury ourselves through the process. We're sitting there bashing on one another. Oh, don't worry, no one should talk to me because you're a Catholic, you're evil, you're that. There is no proof that I'm evil. There's a reason why I'm being nice to you. There's a reason why we're being cordial to one another. We're friends. But outside this, there's no reason for us to be. We should focus on what is going to make us grow. How can we invest in our own community? How can we respect one another? And okay, now that person is a criminal. That person is a gay. That person is dead. Okay, rather than bash that person, because I know, let me say this brutally. There are a lot of men out there. I want to say this out loud. There's a lot of men out there that are busy saying that Obama is the devil because he legalized, or he said, have respect, let the gay have their rights. But then you go out there, you have a lot of men out there who are saying, I want to hit my woman from the back. What are you doing? So it makes no difference between hitting a woman and a man from the back. You're doing the same thing. You're indirectly gay if you're asking for that. So stop being... Get off your high horse. I'm a Christian, I'm perfect. I'm asking my spouse to do all these other things, but I'm judging a good leader on his word about what he said about gay people because they are not supposed to exist. Once you do that, the devil is going to get into your system as well to make you, make other people people treat you differently. That's why the white person is going to come in there and say you are nothing. Because you're fighting amongst one another. I want you to start respecting people. Okay, the person is gay, so what? Now, let me see how I can convert the person. How can I help the person understand that this thing they're doing is wrong? That is your job as a Christian. Now, if the person does not change, doesn't want to be converted, let them be. It's their life. God says don't judge. Let them be. The same way you see an African going on around your brother, you try to talk them, hey, be honest. See, this thing you're doing, this you're stealing from a neighbor, I saw you. I'm not talking about it, I'm talking to you one-on-one. As a brother, what can I do to help? How can I be of help? So because we need to help one another and get out of this. Be vocal. Be not afraid. That's what I'll say. Be vocal and stand up and talk to one another. And that is how if you're not going to change that person by talking to the person, by educating the person, by informing the person, then don't go behind their back and talk about them as bad people. Because that again is what makes this gossip that is among black people, make it go circle around and come back to haunt us. Because once someone knows that you're busy gossiping about them, they're coming after you in anger, in pain, to tear you down. Again, more violence and more violence and more violence. So we should not focus on judging one another based on our differences. I think that we should look at our similarities a whole lot more. Build a community around our color. Because the Portuguese community, there is the Polish, they have their holidays. The Chinese, the Indians have a holiday and they do the parade. Africans, it doesn't have to only, okay, Ghanaians will have the Ghana Fest, and Nigerians will have whatsoever. But we as Africans all have to come out for a particular day so that they should set a holiday for us, a holiday for Africans. And we have to start by saying, this day is for Africans to come out and celebrate. When they'll see that unity among us. African Americans and Africans alike. We need to come up with a theme, with a structure on how to come out and celebrate our roots. And I think it's going to help us.
And so just to, for us to have a key word, right, that kind of talks about what you're saying. That is a language that everyone speaks. Because this word that I'm about to mention is not something that is it's not tangible, like as far as you can touch it, right?
You can't grab it.
It's felt,
Right.
it's understood,
Correct.
and it's love.
Right. Love.
That's true.
So if we can just focus on what is love, and I had to look it up because people really don't know what love is because we think it's some sort of feeling, and it's not even a feeling.
No.
It's a commitment.
It's a commandment, actually.
It's a commandment.
It's a commandment.
And it's actually
It's
a verb.
action.
It's
action.
But we were
It's a verb.
commanded.
Exactly.
To
So
love.
what is love? And every time I read this, I read it and I'm convicted continuously because that's what makes our Creator who He is. That's what makes Him so amazing. Is
Because He's love.
He's like, I want you guys to be this, and yet it's so hard for us to be this.
Yes.
Right.
Love is patient.
Yep.
Love is kind.
Yes.
It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others.
Correct.
It is not self-seeking.
Correct.
It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs.
Thank you. And I think you just nailed what the call to action is.
Love does not delight in evil,
Yes.
but rejoices in the truth.
Yes.
Correct.
It always protects. Now, when you look at the word always, you know that always is not, I used to say when you look at a test and when you see something that says always, you know that probably is wrong because there's not many things as always unless it's a principle, right?
Yeah.
Always protects. Always trusts.
Correct.
Always trust. I just want y'all to
Sowing the seed of trust is very important in our communities.
Exactly.
Without trust, we can't move forward.
Exactly.
So start trusting one another and in trusting them, delegating responsibility.
Exactly.
How many of us black folks want to employ another black person? And recently, I'm doing some work in the restaurant. What did I tell you, Aji? I need a black brother or sister to do it. And that is because I'm trusting some black person to do it equally good as would a Mexican or as another race.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Always hopes, And this last one just hit me now. Always perseveres. And this is what I feel as melanated people, Black community, when we talk about that resilience that we have, right? It's because, you know, it's what's in us. We continue just persevering. You know what I mean? There's areas that we need to work on, but there's something about, you know, when we talk about that, the Black community and who we are, which is very forgiving, very loving, whatever. But there's also things that we also need to start looking at ourselves. Are we actually embodying love?
Yeah.
Are we actually embodying
So are we,
love?
basically what you're saying is, are we embodying God?
Yep.
You know, so because God is love.
God is love.
So the word that you picked out of was always. And all, A-L, the word is an Arabic word that means the. It's like in Allah, the object, you know, A-L, algebra. So you have to understand, so if you look at it, it's the way, always perseveres. The way, always patient. That means God is always persevering. God is always patient. God doesn't get, once you looked at what we saw with our own eyes, that the police officer was doing, right? God is of good all the time. So he's not going to come and say, hey, let's go looting and shooting. And I know, because I have a side of me too, that I remember when I was in my 20s, I was a rebel. I was a revolutionary. I was dangerous. So I can imagine the kind of anger that was in me at that time. So that's why I cannot judge anybody based on the action. Because if I went back to my early 20s, back then I was a Muslim, you know, it was so many things that was happening in my life. I know I'll be out there right now.
You've been a Muslim before?
Yes, I was a Muslim. Yes.
Oh,
You know, so you know, amazing religion too. You know, so and with that, you just have to have a mentality of understanding that we are only here to spread good news. What I really wanted to say in conclusion, while we're trying to conclude, is something that I know, that I felt for a long time, that this country, and the blacks in America, in this Mecca of the world right now, are the most privileged and the most blessed. I mean, so they will tell you, they're only trying to show you the different things, and that's why we say it's about good news. When you go around the world and you see sports and you see music, who's on top of everything? You had BSA, Jay-Z, we had a black president. Black people are really starting to rise up. And once you understand that tribe, that 13th tribe, is a blessed tribe that God has called upon to infiltrate this system here and bring a different meaning to the ways of the enemy. You understand? Because the black people have only been, we started the show talking about how come we're the only one that have been going through this all throughout. But you'll realize there's a reason why you guys are being conditioned to do that, because we've been set apart to bring love and to bring light. Unconditional to the rest of the world. Now, what we'll do with our power is we bring it up to the forefront and have them come and start doing the fighting for us. Because really, the weapon, it's the power is in the tongue. So it's in us really educating the whites, the police officers, the good police officers, the good white people, and a lot of the good community people to say, hey, we're no longer going to take this. Let's do something about it. So continue to speak to those people, those elements, and continue to reach them. A lot of things, I can't sit here and advocate for violence, even though I know it's a means to an end. But I know violence begets violence. So I have to come up and figure out a different way to channel my anger and what my responsibility is, which is to let every black person know that you're a king. The reason why you're being under attack is because the world sees something in you that they've never seen before in a race.
Exactly.
Right? They've tried to extinguish this race. It would never happen.
Correct.
You know, they wiped out our whole Indian race, but you can't touch God. This people right here, we have the Spirit of God in us, we have the voice of God in us, and we have the direction of God. And that's really who we have to listen to. So that's my conclusion.
Well, we are coming to the close of our show today, Solutions Talk Obed. And before I let AJ give us last word, I'm going to speak and have you all close. And, well, I'll say this. Start with your people. what part do you have to play? I think that it starts with an individual from your household. What role do you play in your own household to make sure that you're extending that unconditional love to a black brother from your household to the next household? Start with your own household so that we can start building small communities and then a bigger community. Extend it to the next brother, to the next sister you see. And with that, the black power is going to grow. What part do you play as an individual that is going to come up to the role we play collectively as a community? It's going to help us when you start recognizing one another, respecting one another, and helping one another, lifting them up so that we can grow our communities. Everyone is significant. Do not go out with hate. Forgive, but when you see something wrong, call it out and be out there to support those who are calling it out too. Do not try to cloud it and make it look as though it did not happen for your own selfish gains and your own political gains. So thank you for joining us. Peace, thank you, and Princess. What do you have to say to this audience that's been listening to you today?
Well, I think that we had a very diverse and you know, the conversation was a plethora of different, you know, areas, and you know, of course we focused on a lot of racial things, the black community, but I would like to end with again going back to the mental health, right? Because if our mind is healthy, you know, then and that produces behaviors, you know, because our mind is the playground of the enemy. And I talked earlier about we're not battling against our physical, it's really a spiritual thing.
Yes.
And so when we understand that it's a spiritual thing, we also understand that, you know, the mind is the enemy's playground. And so I always like this quote because, again, it's like the enemy wants to make you feel like you're something that you're not. And those and what he does is implant thoughts, right? So everything begins in your mind, and that thought. What are those thoughts that you're having? So the quote is, watch your thoughts. When you're watching your thoughts, right, you're saying, okay, whose thought is this? Is this something that's coming from within me? Is it coming from the God in me, or is it coming from someone else? And if you know it's coming from someone else, you know that's the enemy. So watch your thoughts because they become your words.
Exactly.
And watch your words because they become your deeds, those behaviors. Watch your deeds, those behaviors, as they become your habits. Watch your habits as they become your character. And watch your character because it becomes basically is your destiny. And so we can begin to do that, like she said, it's an individual thing that we have to do daily. And then when we can do it individually, then we're going to now produce beings, right?
Right.
That also we can teach those values to. And then when we're teaching those values to our offsprings, we're now producing families, and these families now become communities, and communities become nations, and we'll have a better place. We're going back to Eden. So let's work on ourselves individually.
Yes, the daily decision that changes everything. What about you?
Thank you, moral philosopher. I think for me, I'll just like drop a few nuggets as my last words. First, as I said before, start with empathy. Let it grow into, you know, collaboration and synergy. Ensure you're always using your sphere of influence to make a difference. Don't be quiet or silent. Like, make a difference in the positive direction. So at the end of the day, you know, you're able to foster hope, you're able to build trust, and you're able to actually change the world and elevate people. So like, we all rise at the end. Thank you.
Aji?
Wow, to my kings and queens, I just want you guys to take your rightful place, which is on the throne. And I want everybody to start thinking, like Pastor Peace was saying, the right concentration, the right action. That's very important. How you have to remember what role you play in this time of history. Because a lot of people, yes, you're frustrated, but this is history in the making. What role are you playing? Are you building or are you destroying? Are you a master or are you a slave? So you really have to understand like what role you're playing. So the right action is important, the right way to speak, and the right things to say. Make sure you're spreading nothing but good news.
Speaking truth to power.
Speaking truth to power, because yes, it might appear to the naked eyes that everything is going crazy, that the world is upside down. But I see a lot of beauty. I see a lot of beauty in the black race. Yes, to some people, they're looting, they're shooting. I'm telling you, this same group of people, I see nothing but resilience. I love them because they just need guidance. And with the proper guidance and the right kingdom teachings, we can now direct them, and they can understand who their common enemy is, which is the devil. And we'll be able to slay the devil and come, you know, on the other side the right way. So let's buy black.
Raise our cups
yes.
From the powerhouse to the world. Let's
black
go
companies,
and
black businesses.
Let's go and unite.
Black love.
Black love. Let's
black
unite.
Jesus.
Let's make it happen.
Black Jesus in the back right there.
In our blackness.
Yes.
And let's be proud of who we are and go out there and sell our skills, our talents, and make the world, make the difference, make everything look good, because we are good people. Thank you so much for watching.
Watch Trend Africa TV. Watch Julia Gam Solutions. Obed, you have Pastor Peace over here. She has Pure Unity. She's also COO of Life Development Center. You have Princess over here doing amazing things in the community. I'm also speaking on economic family and how we can build up and start as a community, start with each other, and then we can now affect the rest of the world. So thanks for everybody for watching. See you guys next week, and off we go.
To advertise with us, donate sponsorships and suggestions, email us at trendafricatv@gmail.com or call us on 773-312-0318 or 773-756-6678. Remember to also follow and like us as Trend Africa TV on Facebook so you can always catch us live. On Instagram as Trend Africa TV 123 or subscribe to our YouTube channel as Trend Africa TV and click on the notification button to watch previous shows. You can also visit our website for your African news, entertainment, fashion and sports updates on www.trendafricaonline.net. Trend Africa TV, redefining